What's going on, guys? I had another week, another episode, another everything is going on this week, man. And man, I bring it back to battle tested. What doesn't break you builds your brand. Man, it's been a long time, man. We've been a long, I think about that song when I say it's been a long time. Um, Yo Gotti. That's the song I think about. But I got a special guest on here today, man. It is man. She's hailed from Alberta, Canada. Man, she's a transformation coach. She is a beast at what she does. She reached out to me on LinkedIn a few weeks, about a month or so ago. We chopped it up on the LinkedIn or on Zoom, and it was just a great conversation. Just back and forth conversation. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to invite her on to have a real conversation on battle testing to see, today we're going to be talking about embracing the journey. And I wouldn't even would like to have anybody else other than this lady to hop on here. Without further ado, Miss Luann, welcome, Miss Luann. Thank you for coming. I knew you're in Alberta, Canada, so I thank you for even just showing up today and introduce yourself a little bit. I gave you a warm welcome, but go ahead and introduce yourself and let the people know. Like it's like 270,000 people on right now, so it's a great for you to really brag on yourself a little bit, right? And some of the work you've done over the years and stuff. So go ahead, girl.
Oh, well, thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. And I love your title, what doesn't break you builds your brand. And isn't that so true? It's kind of like life. And I think that's what led me into the work that I'm doing was just life, not extreme life, but just the things that come into life, handling our own changes in life, transitions, when the curveball comes our way. But it led me to really understanding and being kind of forced into diving into the subconscious mind and what really diving into our thoughts, because I really had no idea how much of an impact that actually had, because it's so true is that they're just running us and and then stopping to take a look at them was rather revealing, not really always that pleasant, but quite revealing. And it just really intrigued me into just really diving into it, but also making that experience available to others, because I recognized what a difference it made to be able to understand the transformation, the mindset, what's really driving us, revealing those blind spots in all parts of our life. So helping people with their career, maybe seeing opportunities they may not have seen, helping them get through life experiences, build relationships, basically do that, feeling like it's more like our optimal life rather than it's, the grind and that type of thing. So, so in that, it's kind of led me to some pretty advanced coaching, some pretty advanced mindset. I think I'm one of 2,600 master coaches in the world, which is kind of fun and kind of exciting.
Wow.
But so it just pretty much says coaching is my thing.
Hey, I'm just getting started with this thing called, not necessarily coaching. I've been, I did some time in the military. So I did a lot of, stuff in and out of that, doing publishing coaching and all that stuff. So it's not the coaching aspect. I always had this exciting and expressive voice and all of that stuff. So that's always been there. But this transformation and really diving in, it's one thing when you start working on yourself, right? And then you're like, okay, I work on me. Then somebody might call and be like, hey, no. Be like, oh, that's your issue right there. You got a blind spot right there. You don't even see. And it's just natural when you're in that space and that's your purpose. And it's like you can get on the phone for an hour, 2 hours. It's just nothing, and you know what I mean? Do you have that sometimes?
Oh, yes. And I think that you raise a really good point. We typically don't really recognize what it is that's holding us back, because it shows up, what I would call it shows up as a symptom, but we don't really get what's running behind it. And so, for example, sometimes we might not really recognize, well, a common example, I guess I would say, is that, we get really, sometimes people say, well, I'm really time pressed. I've got a really major, intense schedule, et cetera, and so on. And then when we dive deep into those beliefs, sometimes it's not really it's not usually the outside world. It's really how we're approaching that outside world. And sometimes there's a lot of beliefs around control. And I want to do this, and it has to be a certain way. And the other part that comes up is, which is part of the inner game that we work with, is my own identity of myself. Like I have this image of like I have to be a certain way, it has to be me, kind of thing. And that image has got a lot of, you could say, branches to it that might not really be contributing to growth. It's like, we could say, what got us here is not what will get us there, because we know that.
I'm glad you said that, just that, because I said that in, what's the year, 25, in 23 I said that. In 23 I said that what got us here won't get us there, right? And as you say that, that just means, hey, I'm on the right path, right? Like, hey, I get on here and I get excited. You see the smile, and this is a natural smile. I know what DC just said, hey, you having a down day? I'm like, no, I'm just having a day, It's like, but then I get on here and I'm smiling, and I'm just having a day, And so what led you to being a transformation coach? Like, what led you there? Like,
good question. So it's actually my own beliefs, actually. It leads to my early years of my life. I was raised on the farm, which was a lot of fun. And we hugely learned productivity, integrity, just high achievement. It was achievement every day, but it was also the reward of those achievements. So it was sort of like how I operated. And then I, it was really helpful because it helped me set up some, good aspects of my career and relationships and things like that. And then there was a point where it kind of all fell apart because it wasn't as much my inner game that was driving that. I was really driven by that kind of that achievement oriented perspective. And in that sense, I wasn't always as aligned with my core and really coming from my heart as I could have been, because the rewards came from the outside world type of thing, not so much alignment with my inside world. But my inner world was catching up to me. And I was just noticing that there were certain gaps here. And so it kind of all came to a head all at once, where, I found myself being a single mom. I was at a sudden downsizing experience, and I was really unfamiliar territory. And those old ways of like working like crazy didn't do it. And I think it was internal, because when I looked at the next step, it had to be different. It just could not be the same. And I really had no idea how to do that. Until
it's crazy you say that. It's crazy you say that right there, because like in the military, like I've shared on here plenty times, is like in the military, I was like, I came from poverty, I came from Mississippi and stuff, and I grew up, and at 17 I dropped out of high school. I moved to Atlanta and went back to school, and from the time I dropped out of high school in 2022 and till 5 years later, just 5 years later, like you was just saying, achievement. Like I went on to be #1 in Japan in the Air Force, and so I was very successful in there. And I was, hey, let me go get it. And it was running because I was running from something, right? Like I was running, and a lot of the times we running from something, and we like when you saying internally. So I ended up doing 4 tours in 6 years in the Air Force.
Wow.
Yeah, I did 2 tours in Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan, 1 to Ecuador. And I did all that in 6 years. And I had over, in 6 years, I had over 2 years of probably like 30 months of being gone. Like going from, that's not even including TDYs that I had to go on, temporary duty assignments that I had to go on. So, you mentioned that a moment ago. So it's kind of, you triggered something when you said that, like when we go under, like you got to go under to really dive in it, right? Like, and that's what I did when my wife transitioned in 2000. So I was like, man, I've been going, like came out the military in 2014. And once I came out the military in 2014, I went to school. I was always busy doing something. Went to school, got an associate's degree, and I attempted to get a job, and nobody would hire me because I had freaking three degrees already. So I went back and got my MBA, so it made me really not hireable, right? Like people was like, no, I'm not gonna hire you and pay you $200,000, right? Like, and so that were the case, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get into insurance, and I got into insurance. I was working insurance thing for a while, and I'm like, man, I wanna kind of see what the boardroom looked like. And I really started getting into the politics, and I was on the city commission, chairman of development authority at Snellville, and in Snellville, Georgia, and I was about to run for city council. I was about 5 months from running from city council, putting my bid in, and boom, she passed away during COVID, right? She caught COVID, passed away in 3 days. And so for me, it was like when you said you had to, it was all this achievement and running. For me, it's like I can relate to that. And that's why I brought up that story and sharing all that. I can relate to such because you had to go under, right? And sometimes you gotta get the shovel. You're in the farm and all that stuff. Like you mentioned, you gotta get the shovel, and it's not a surface level. You gotta dive, and you gotta sit there, and you gotta get under there, right? Like you gotta bulldoze that stuff in it, and really, it's so powerful what you just shared, and because that's where I've been doing. Man, you had the conversation about Landmark this year, and but I was already, when I got to Georgia, when I got to Florida, I was like, okay, cool. Got a therapist, amazing therapist. We started working on, it wasn't even the military stuff anyway, because I had already dealt with that. It wasn't even the grief. What even that? It was that childhood stuff, right? That inner stuff that you had to work on. So I can relate to it. It was that, so for 2 years, we worked on childhood stuff. And this year with Landmark, those blind spots, and really diving in those blind spots. And I just had a major breakthrough last Wednesday. I live from a distinction of I don't want to fail because I failed the 3rd grade because I brought a knife to school. So I lived that way for 31 years, right? And so that when you just said it, kind of sparked something like, yeah, okay, I'm listening, right? I'm listening, and you're like, hey, you just got to get back under there, right? You got to dive in it and get your internal, because at the end of the day, if you don't, then you're going to continue. How I see it, you're going to continue to build up like skyscrapers on burial grounds, right?
Yes, that's
and eventually,
right.
If you ain't got no great foundation.
Well, it's inevitable. It's kind of like growing out of our shoes.
Yeah, right. I love it.
I think what you remind me of is that achievement was actually really rewarding and really helpful, and it was also, I would call it transactional. And there was a point where, my inner soul just wanted more. It was like, it was feeling like I wasn't really fulfilling what I was meant to do, type of thing. But it's also really interesting trying to listen to an inner voice when you're facing a lot of external challenges. It's not the first voice that you want to listen to, but it's actually the truest voice. And the mindset work actually led me into understanding it's actually the inner voice.
Yeah.
That is the game, actually. And the inner voice drives. It's a much more grounded driver. That's the solid foundation. You can build on it, the inner voice.
So, all right, cool. So, like, how does kind of give a picture of like where people can be able to start from when it comes down to that beginning stages of where they are. Like you got to go back to your childhood.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, you got to go back to the childhood. You got to have a great foundation. And you got a great foundation, you can build skyscrapers on burial grounds,
Yeah.
right? And so, especially if you had a traumatic childhood. So what are some things that people can be able to kind of some skills or techniques, rather, better word to use, some techniques that they can use to really kind of hone in on that, to use that so that could become their superpower, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I would say with that is that there's a couple things that come to mind, and the first thing is looking at our outside world is an immediate reflection of our inside world.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever it is that seems like it's kind of an ongoing situation, I mean, how they say that sort of same person, different clothes, different outfit.
Yeah.
Same situation, different scenario. Where those are showing up, those actually are really, those are like gold, because they're actually signs of where to look first. And then once a person begins to look there first, it's looking at what is, if we were going, so what would be the ideal person we could be to get where we want? Usually we have a sense of who do I need to be that's kind of different. Like, what's the gap from where I am now to where I want to be? Like, in a perfect world, what would that highway look like?
Okay.
What would that highway look like that bridges that gap? That's very rich. And then when you see what would that highway look like that would get us there, then what are the reasons that we're not there? Because those are usually really good reasons that have deep roots.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And there's and ultimately what we're wanting to do is that when we're in that stress moment, we're wanting to change what I would call the brain chemistry, because that stress moment is cortisol. And one of the ways we can do that, so when we see that gap, is we can ask ourselves a question, because a question actually changes brain chemistry.
Okay.
And so it could be a question, but it would be a question something like, how is this exactly perfect? Which it doesn't seem perfect, but how is it perfect? Because that's a bigger vision question. And it prompts us to think about sort of like beyond the immediate circumstances.
Okay.
It's a reflective question.
Yeah.
When you keep it in mind, it's quite interesting what it will show you.
Got it. When did you realize that hard work wasn't really enough for life, and you just had to build it yourself? Like, when did you realize that
I think my first realization of that was when everything kind of fell apart. Like my career, my relationships, the whole scenario. It was, the puzzle came completely apart, you could say. And I think it has to come apart because what I recognized was it has to come apart in order to reassemble it. And I really didn't. I was wearing old shoes and had grown out of them without really recognizing I had grown out of them, was still using, old shoes to get me to new places, you could say. I just realized, you know what, this is just not, I had to really dig into my inner voice to see what else is there. Because I thought, sometimes when you feel like you've really uncovered every stone.
Yeah, I know.
And you still don't know, like, what is this?
Like, what?
I know. Yeah. So yes. So that prompted me. And once I started digging, I found a lot. There was a lot there that was driving what wasn't working. Unbeknownst to me, because those strategies are very clever. They're really clever. They know exactly how to trigger you and exactly how to get you going in a certain direction. It's our inner voice that will come above those strategies, those outdated strategies all the time.
So saying that, do you write down some of the things that you had to endure so you can be like, oh yeah, I dealt with that before. Oh yeah, I remember you. You know what I mean? Like they just keep popping up like pop, 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 like popcorn and stuff. Do you write it down and keep a journal of it? And is that a great tactic to have or whatever? Because I just thought about that a moment ago. And I'm like, I'm going through all these breakthroughs. I haven't wrote any of them down. I'm like, oh, they'll disappear and I don't want them to come back, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. That's a really good technique, is to write them down, and also to write questions out. So when you write questions out, like, how is this exactly perfect? And that actually really helps also, because, and actually another technique is to ask that question at the end of the day, because your subconscious mind actually works while you're sleeping. And so it's actually collecting in its own mind evidence that will eventually come forward. So at the end of the day, before a person goes to sleep, never go to sleep thinking about something stressful. Think about, how is this perfect? And think about, how is this actually leading me to exactly where I want? Because it actually is. Obstacles force us to learn the very thing that takes us to where we're going.
How is this perfect? I like it. I love it, actually. It makes me think like, okay, cool. Yeah. See, I actually started this podcast. I started like this journey from last year. I'm only a year in it. Well, I'm actually a little bit further than a year, but like really, really, really into this transformation stuff, right? Like, but I started from this journal. I came up with this journal. I use AI to help me with it, but I came up with this journal, man, and this journal right here is called The Journey of Being. Like, I dealt with this journal for about at least 9 months. 9 months. Like at 9 months, and I only filled out the first 2 pages. Like I printed it all off, and I came up with the idea, and I printed it all off, and people can download it. They can go to my Discord right there, and they can be able to download it. HTTP discord.gg/discord.gv9xexmb. They can go there, but that's the thing. I started with this journal, and it was going to be called what was it going to be called? Flipping Trauma to ATM. Like acceptance, transformation, and mastery.
Oh, good. It's brilliant. Yes.
So it was going to be called that. That's what it was called initially. And it was going to be called that. And 2 weeks before my late wife's anniversary on October 24th, I was like, oh, I came up with this title right here, The Journey of Being. And I was like, oh, and I'm talking about instantly just start putting in, like I was, is like, have you ever experienced something like that? Like, you going, and it's like, I'm like, I would say a block, but you kind of like, oh, I don't want to really do that right now. I'm gonna keep on putting that. I'm gonna shelf that. But then something happens and it, pow, like, have you ever experienced that type of?
Oh, yes. It's like all of a sudden I look out and it's really dark, because I'm in the zone. I'm really in my zone.
Yeah. And I get that.
Yes. And that's our inner self, though. That's our inner game. And that's when we're really aligned and really productive. It's that brain chemistry that we get, that it comes right down to that.
Nice. Guys, hey, I want you guys to go ahead and subscribe on Battle Tested Podcast on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe on Battle Tested Podcast on YouTube. You do not want to miss this episode right here. We're having a great conversation. We're already 25 minutes in, and man, it's just a back and forth conversation. It's just amazing conversation. So if you want to go back and watch this over again, go ahead and subscribe to Battle Tested podcast on YouTube. Okay, cool. So, was there a moment you asked yourself, "Why me? Why now?" You ever ask yourself that question?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I would say several times I've asked it, because there's been several times I felt there were like it was just time for me to shift. I felt like a whole different person, yet my outside world was still the same, but my inside world wasn't. And it was out of alignment. And I did wonder, like, what's going on? What is this about me? What is going on? Yeah, so I definitely did. And then I come back to that question, how is this perfect? How is this meant to be? Like, what's on the other side of this? What is this showing me? What am I supposed, like, what's sort of like, what's this silver lining? What really am I being shown?
Yeah, I get that.
Mm.
Um,
It's like,
go ahead. Go ahead.
well, I work with vertical development, and that's the difference. When you talked about your journey of being, and vertical development is very much that. It's like when we tune into our inner game, and when we work with those strategies, it's like the whole world is different. We have a whole different perspective. And I would say for myself, I did not know how stressed I was until I wasn't.
Mm,
And so
man.
many times I hear that too. It's like, I didn't know how controlling I was until until I saw that. And then that was not very pleasant to see. I thought, oh my goodness, you know.
Man, you saying that it makes me think back to like I didn't know how stressed I was until I wasn't. Like
Hmm.
I just told someone like I was like I didn't realize till last week that when I first moved to Florida, I was in a deep, deep, deep depression. Like I was in a so deep depression, like, and they was asking me like, why didn't you do this? Like they was asking me like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And I was thinking like, I don't know, like it's not the money wasn't the issue, right? The money wasn't the issue. It's like, I wasn't really focused on that. Like I was really focused on like surviving, right? Like
Yes.
I was on
Survival mode.
surviving and like I'm like, man, I'm
Hmm.
having lived a certain life for a certain amount of time, it's you go back to, like I said, in childhood, it's like surviving, like going, you're thriving in it, but you get so great at it. It's like, man, I didn't even know how much I was surviving, like how deep I was.
Hmm.
Right? Like I had to, like I said, I had to go deep, right? I had to go deep, deep, right? And sometimes, even in that deepness of that internal self, you don't even want to. You like, I know I got to go through it.
That's
Like,
right.
and I said this right here, and I came up with this. We go through things to get through things. We go through things to get through things, but we never stay stuck in the mud.
That's very true. Yes, I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like we go through things to get through things. Like we think about it, like guys, like as a kid, we always playing. We always had this expressive childhood expression, and like we're going, and it's raining outside. Like okay, and we see this mud puddle. Like your foot might get stuck in there with your shoes, and you
Yeah.
like forget that shoe. I'm gonna keep on running, right? I'd rather leave that shoe and run with one foot, one shoe on, than fall in the mud and get my whole body wet, right? Like,
Right.
we go through things, and that's how life is. And like we go
Yes.
through things to get through things, but we never stay stuck in that. We always, like I was just speaking about, being in that deep, deep depression. See, now having endured that, like I was still pouring into people, and like people call me. Like, I'm sure you were too, right? Like it didn't stop
Mhm.
being your purpose, but you were still pouring into people and stuff. And it's so unique when you say that though, and it just carries that. So, what was the fear you didn't tell anybody? Did you have a fear that you didn't tell anybody?
Well, one point, I honestly didn't know how I would get through it. And I
Yeah.
was really worried about that because like I said, I was a single mom at that point, and I was really concerned that I was not going to be a good role model for my daughter. And I didn't want to plant any of my seeds in for her. And so, but I honestly didn't know it's like, it was pretty much felt like a crapshoot. Like what's going to happen? I just had to just do my best. Like, and I think that's, when I think back about it, I think that's where I really learned also about presence and
Mhm.
just simply being present, because it was the past and the future that could really literally knot my stomach like crazy. I'd just be in a total knot because that was very uncertain. But it was only presence. Presence was the only place that I could be. But presence was the place where my intuition would come forward. So it's kind of like, I felt like I was kind of in a little bit of a battle because, the past wants to say, you need to go out there and do this way. And yet your inner voice is saying, oh, no, you don't. I don't think that's going to work. And then so you go try it, and then you just get the evidence that it's not going to work. So it kind of builds the fear, because then you think, like, where am I going to do it?
Yeah.
It was that really taught me about presence, I recognize, and this is the only place I can be. This is the only place that's going to get me through this, and that I'm going to get through this.
So you like, man, the past can't do nothing for me. The future can't do nothing for me. This is this moment right here, and I say this on this all the time. The present moment is the only moment available to us. Is the door to all moments.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
because if I was stuck in the past, it was, what did I do? How did I possibly create this, et cetera, et cetera. And then if I look in the future and I think, holy cow, I don't know how this is going to look, and definitely don't want to anticipate what it could possibly look like. So I got to get, myself together, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally get that. And it's like, and I look at it, sometimes we look so much at our past, right? Like we look at it so much like, man, oh, you did this, or this happened, and that happened. But then we miss out on the fact that like, where am I at the present? Like, am I here? Am I now? Like, I can't change. And I came up, man, I came up with a lot of quotes over the years. These quotes saved my life, though. I'm here today to talk to you on the phone on today because, like, a lot of the things I've endured, I had to come up with quotes. And, I've seen a lot of stuff, and I don't want to get into that too much. And but I came up with this quote that absolutely, I remember I was in Kroger's. It was 2015. Came up with this quote, and I was in Snellville, Georgia. You can't change yesterday. You can only affect today and tomorrow.
So true.
Like you can't change. And I just kept like I was in a I was in a suicidal thought because I was been only out of the military for a year. And I was like, man, this thing is hard. And you think about it, I'm running so fast. You talking about anxiety? Running so fast, all those tours, and like I had to and I'm in a suicidal state. And I'm like, man, the only thing is that quote and my family. Those are the two things that combine. And it's like, hey, and I'll just be honest with you. And like I was in a state of, like I nearly got blown up in Afghanistan and so on and so forth. Like, yeah, like it was I got medals like out the crazy. And so it just is that experience. And so that's some of the things is like, did some of the when you were going through your journey, like, did you ever question some of the things that was on your path?
Oh, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I just, because especially, and that's where I say, although my childhood wasn't difficult, I developed patterns from that I definitely needed to change. And that was the illusion that was very hard to leave. because it had worked for so long. And so then I thought, well, are you like losing it or something here? Or are you just like not going to really rise to the occasion? Like what basically I question myself a lot. Really question myself a lot.
You question yourself a lot?
I did. I questioned myself a lot. And actually it wasn't entirely in vain, because it kind of forced me to look at a few things. And I was thinking, well, in the whole world, people do things differently all over the world. So I don't think I need to be confined to this one particular way. And I always tried to look at how I was thinking about things. So, which was very good at helping me overthink also as well.
I think one thing now is I'd be like, I just, I think when you overthink, you're thinking too much in the future. You're not in the present, right? And so, because you can't anticipate what's going to happen out there. Like, you can't, like, if I go to the store, I can't anticipate if the store is going to get robbed, or like, I might not, because, sure, you can drive the anxiety can drive you nuts, right? Like, yes, and that depression is like, man.
Completely can. Yeah.
And so that's the thing about it, right? Like I can't, it's not beneficial, so to speak. It's not beneficial to really overthink yourself. And that's what I stopped doing. I stopped overthinking things, and I started be like, I can't change it anyways, right? I can think all these scenarios of things that might happen, but then I lose the present.
Yes, exactly.
I lose the present then, and like I'm not here, and like, I can anticipate. Like, I did that for years, and because I was a cop in the Air Force.
Yeah.
Right. I was a cop in the Air Force, and so that was the thing for us. Like, we gotta anticipate things happening, right? Like, we gotta have you think about it, like, we gotta have all these medical. I did combat lifesaver, so I got to think about all this, and I had to actually use it in action, because I saved the Army guy's life. We got an Army Commendation Medal out of there, and like, you have to remember all this and this stuff.
Yes.
Like, and it's like you guys like, right? Like, it's crazy to even think about it this moment. Like, but like, what you think? We talk about externally and internally. Like, your internal world is a direct reflection of your external world.
It is your external world is a direct reflection of your internal world.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yes.
So can you dive in that a little bit when it comes down to, and share that of how or what can be done? So your external world, you got all these different things or whatever. Are you saying that my internal world, like, you got all these things, is amazing cars, houses, and all that stuff? Is that like, okay, my house, like, all that stuff is how I feel inside? Is that what you're saying?
Our external world is a reflection of our internal world, in that, so if I have, the cars and the houses and, the relationships, then I'm good at creating that. And I also want to look at, like, what are the things in my external world that don't seem to, that keep showing up, that are just not what I really want. So that actually was probably the biggest goal, because yes, I could create things transactionally. I was very good at transactional, but I also recognized that my fulfillment was not really feeling like it was at the place that I wanted it to be. And it was by looking at that, I just recognized this is not feeding my internal soul. Like, it's not feeding my internal soul. It is to a certain extent, but because the achievement feels good, but that achievement is one after another, one after another, one after another. It's kind of like, it's kind of like groceries. It expires and you go get another.
Right. Like, I like that one. That was a great moment. All right, cool. Let me go get another one.
Just go get another one. And so, but it was constantly, I would say this, it was like running from a certain aspect of myself. And by looking closer at why wasn't I feeling that alignment? Why wasn't I feeling that fulfillment? It's because I was so wrapped up in what I was creating and producing that I wasn't present. So basically, by looking really closely at the external world, because it's our thoughts that create our external world, it ultimately made the invisible visible. Because prior to that, that was just a way of operating. I didn't really recognize how, I guess I could say, disconnected I was in other ways.
All right, cool. So what shifted for you though? Like what happened, like kind of shifted that?
I looked really closely at how was I being and what was I doing?
Okay.
And how did I need to, what I actually looked really closely at was how did I need to be differently? And I honestly didn't know how I would get there. So I thought, it's just definitely not the old ways. I have to see this differently.
So you like, because I came up with this, I think a couple weeks ago, I think last month or whatever, I did a show. We are all with a map, right? With a map and the Explorer.
Yes.
With a map and Explorer. So we got to go through, it's like, you got to navigate this thing. There's no like, oh, here's the coordinates to get there. But it's like, you can tell me, but it's like, okay, but you got to think about life. Like we don't know what's life going on. And, you know, some people's life is go to the end of the street, make a left, hook a right, and then hook a left, and then right. And then other people might be like, oh, they get to the end of the street, boom, accident, right? Like, oh, I got to get over this accident, and then right. And so, man, I really get that. And then,
that's a really good metaphor, because when we look at the external world, that's the first step of our map. Like that's the one that tells us, I'm doing this for X, Y, Z. This is why I'm doing this. And if I was to ask myself, well, why can't I do this differently? Or why does this keep showing up? It will say, because if I did this differently, kind of like the uncomfortable opposite, right? If I was to look at the really extreme opposite, so the extreme opposite at that point would have been, well, what if I just go by my heart? Well, that felt like a random thing out of the sky. So for me to go there, I would have had to have a whole new brain. My brain didn't even compute on that, which was exactly what I needed to see.
Yeah, I get that.
It was like a huge light bulb that said, well, how come you can't connect to that? Because that's kind of a long-term problem.
How do you like this is I think, you know, I always live from this place of, you know, I started working at the age of 4 years old, and this right here helped me, and probably will help people and as well. Like I started working at the age of 4 years old, so I didn't really get a childhood like that, but like I got some of a childhood. However, my question is, how do you learn how to recognize when your hard work patterns are taking over and you get this imbalance again? Like now I've slowed down a lot and I've gotten some balance, and so now it's like, okay, I want balance as well. I also want hard work. And sometimes I kind of like, am I ready for that? Like that hard work. Like I don't mind about working. That's easy. But it's like, it's kind of that fear of, man, I know what the level of work I put in. Like, how do you kind of balance that? If you can give me I don't know, if me and you just talking right now, just give me a tip. And I would love that.
I think we can tell when we're out of balance because our energy is not in flow. We're driven by, it's tense. There's a tension, and it doesn't feel, we don't feel, so there's a video that's called Above the Line and Below the Line. And when we're driven by something that is more of a limiting belief. It will do it out of a concern for something. It looks really serious. It kind of looks like, if we don't do it, then like drum roll, something will happen. And that is when we're not aligned. When we're aligned, we're much more objective and we see options. When we're not aligned, we don't see options as much. We kind of see there's got to be this way of doing it. That was probably my biggest clue, was I really felt there was just one way of doing things. And I did not see options initially. I did not see how this would work any other way. That's like a flashing red light, because there always are options.
Yeah.
In reality, there always are options. So and also it doesn't have to be, there are situations for sure that are heavier impacts on our life than others. But when we start thinking that most things have a heavier impact than really is accurate, then that's another sign that says, we're not really seeing things as objectively as we could. And that's because it's driven by something, like you said, when you failed the third grade, how that kept showing up in your life. And there were situations that I recognize where, part of the high achievement is good in lots of ways, but it also has a shadow side. It's very good to be when you really want to dive into a project, but when it becomes a lifestyle, then that is the shadow side, because there's not as much choice. It's a driver.
I get that, because I tend to like, even though breaking through, like I used to be like super super competitive. Like you say, the shadow side, I know what it takes to get to that level, right? I know what it takes to get to that level. And it's like, when it comes down to competitions now, I'll be like, yeah, I know I can do it. I just kind of be like, like, because it takes another level. It takes it's like you take a different type of human, right? Like you got to put everything to the side and like it's zoned in. Like for me, I won 5th Air Force Airman of the Year, number 12 Outstanding Airman of the Year for Japan in 27 months in Air Force. That takes another side, right? Like,
oh, absolutely.
Staff Sergeant, I hit E5 in 3 years, 9 months in the Air Force. That takes another side. Like that takes right. And so now I'd be like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, like you say, it is like you say that shadow, that it takes a dark side of that. That's one of the biggest things that I see now is like that's what kind of I think is like, man, so as you were rebuilding yourself and you were rebuilding yourself and practically, like, what did that look like for you? Like when you was rebuilding your you was like, okay, I hit the bottom. Now I gotta, because that's what I'm at now. Like figuring that out. I hit the bottom. Like, let's go to the next level now. Like, like got rid of some of that old stuff. Like, hey, get out of the way. Right? It's like, I'm gonna write it down when I get off here. But it's like, okay, let's go next level.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I guess when I was facing that real change of life earlier, and I was facing that, I recognized I could not go back into my previous role. And I really wanted to be doing more of the coaching type of work, the transformational type of work, but I had no idea how I would get there. So as I explored that path, it was interesting how synchronicity came into play. Because everybody said, oh, this is so hard. I don't know why you're doing that now, etc., etc. And that was not my experience. Mm-hmm. So I could really tell that was my path.
Got it. Yeah, it's like so what you're saying is from what you just said is like synchronicity was like if it was you was flowing with it and it was like it wasn't no blockage, there's no force, you ain't forcing things. Now it's like, okay, it's like, oh, this is something, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right here. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yes, I would say I wasn't forcing it. There were still obstacles that came up, but I didn't force them. And it seemed like things, it was just able to figure things out. I was able to get through the blockages, and they weren't like huge hurdles. Whereas before, when I was in that sort of transition space and I was trying to like push it, that was really not working. Every day, it's like every time I pushed forward, I got a major pushback also.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, we're definitely going to change this here.
Yeah. Man, and we're gonna take it home in a second, man. Like what man, wow. Hello, Nadia. Nadia, how's it going, Nadia? Man, so like what core beliefs that you had to build up? Like that's one of the things is for me is like what core belief I had to build up. Like I was just writing some stuff down, like because you got this thing right over here, right? Like you got this something you've been operating, your operating system, your old operating system that you've been doing. Like you know, I don't know if you watched the I can't even think of a movie right now, but it's the kids movie with the anxiety, feelings, and so
Oh, yes, yes. I know which one you mean. And I
yeah.
can't think of it either. It's a Disney cartoon movie. Yeah,
Yes. I'll think about it in a minute. But
that one's awesome.
yeah, it's awesome. Like you gotta watch it. Like people if they man, it's I can't think of it right now. But they got a part 1 and 2. And 2 is like,
Yes.
man, my therapist told me to watch it. And what's some core beliefs like for that? And like for me, like I wrote some stuff down and now it's like rebuilding who I am, like my structure and my standards and my all these different things. It's like, you know, it's like, okay, cool. So what are some things that some of your core beliefs that you kind of that you had to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to you recreated to in your new space when you had to rebuild?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would go to the first one was my identity was achievement. That was me. And that is actually really inaccurate. So I didn't recognize the other aspects of my identity. I identified through achievement. So when that wasn't working, that didn't even make sense.
Yeah.
So to open up to understand, no, actually, that's not my identity. I'm still the same person in all the other parts of my life. And I recognize it as it's like being objective about it. Subjective was I have to do this way because this is who I am. That's, that image of myself that I had in my mind. But what I learned and what I changed was actually I'm the same person in different ways. It doesn't take away because I'm not an achiever. It doesn't take away from anything. Unlike my first belief, if I wasn't an achiever, then I was obviously failing or not good enough, etc., etc.
Yeah, I get that. I'm gonna ask you this question, and we're gonna call and we're gonna land this plane with a couple more quick questions because I think this is a powerful question. What happens when somebody finally dismantles the strategies that they once kept them safe? Like for me, like I've been had mine since 8 years old. Like what happens when someone finally dismantles those things that kept them safe their whole entire life?
It's freedom. It's freedom because those things that kept us safe all of our life, we grow out of them. Yeah. And them keeping us safe is exactly what's blocking us from growing. So when we see, because at that point, when it's keeping us safe, we're into that one option world. So when we let go of the one option world, the whole world is here for us. It's freedom. Wow. That's part of where it comes from when I say, I didn't realize how stressed I was until I wasn't. Another one I would add to that was I didn't realize how disconnected I was until I wasn't. Yeah. Because that was my mode. I would disconnect in ways I didn't even realize I was disconnecting. But that was an automatic thing.
Yeah, I get that, man. Like that's man, that almost made me cry right there. Like, man, because that's my world now. Like, building that up. Like, um, wow.
Mm.
How did you stay committed to it though? Like, how did you stay committed to this new identity that you created?
Because I think that once I could see the difference, I just realized what my former approach was really costing me. It was actually, it had worked for a while, but it had reached the point where it was costing me. And that wasn't actually the prettiest picture to look at, because it forced me to recognize how it showed up in, in both my personal and professional life in ways that I didn't want to be that way, but I didn't really recognize that that was happening. And so and this is why vertical development is long and lasting change, because the world is different. We see the world differently. It's a different experience. And there's nothing that is appealing about the old world. It's, like wilted lettuce. It's just, it's not appealing.
Well, tell the people about like brag on yourself a little bit, man. We gotta take this thing in for a landing. But I want to get one more
Yeah.
thing in, but I want you to really tell about what you got going on and where people can find you at and where they can tap in with you and how they can be able to, go on your website and take a test and really work with you and like how can they work with you and really sit down and have a console with you and all that. Like throw it all out there.
Okay. So I have a mini, I suggest, first of all, it's a free consultation. It's a free conversation. We're happy to have that because because individuals are individuals and everybody has the way that they want to come forward. The best way to reach me is LinkedIn. And from there, the free consultation, I have a free workshop that is it's a few hours of just kind of exploring. But basically what people understand is what is that thing that is between me now to where I want to be. It's like understanding the gap. We discover the gap and we also discover like what's creating that gap. And that's very people really appreciate that.
Yeah.
If people want to go more, that's where we get into more depth, where we really look into deep childhood, and we actually stretch and change and create. We actually go through a process where we create new habits and patterns.
Got it.
And they are in place. Like they're not temporary.
Okay, cool.
They're
Luann,
the world different.
Luann, how you say your name? Last name?
Luann Horban.
Horban. Got it.
Yes,
I don't want to mess up nobody's
together.
name because I don't want nobody messing mine up. Luann Horban. So they can find you on LinkedIn. That's the best way to find you on LinkedIn, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Luann Horban on LinkedIn, guys. Like, I'm telling you, I love this conversation. It was like me and her was just having an extended conversation when we was on Zoom. That's how I looked at it, right? Like we was just vibing. And so, guys, let me tell you, hey, you can find me on IG. You can find me on IG, Mr. Diamond Inc. Mr. Diamond Inc. 2.0 on IG and TikTok. Mr. Diamond Inc. 2.0 on IG and TikTok. Hey man, battle tested, man. The season is about to end, so you can go and find this YouTube video. You better go subscribe and get to it, right? But reinvention is something that happens to us all. Like we can't just continue to go through this life and not reinvent ourselves and in the spaces. Would you like to say one last thing before we leave?
I totally believe in your I love your title, Battle Tested, because that's an experience of life. And I think I would say that in a nutshell describes transformation.
Absolutely. So something like, guys, like I end this show every time the same way, right? One day at a time, one moment at a time. We ain't Batman though. See you guys later.